trying to figure out, what does it mean to be civically engaged? How do we suggest that young women become more civically engaged in 2021 and beyond? Let's go alphabetically just to start it off. F, M, N, S. Let's start with Ms. Fanika Miller. So what do we do to engage people in civic engagement? What does that mean to be engaged?
To me, and as a Black girl who grew up becoming engaged with seeing other Black women engaged in politics and in political campaigns, I began work on my first campaign as a preteen, working to elect the very first Black county commissioner in Houston County. That was in the 1980s. And I did that work because my cousin, who was a role model and a mentor to me, expressed to me that having people at the table, representation, is going to help our communities, right? And so I made those phone calls. I dropped that lit in those doors. Mr. Porter won that race, and I've been serving ever since, learning how the nuances of politics affect our lives. It really takes time for change to happen, but just have committed my life to service. I think for Black girls, it is seeing that. It is seeing representation. It is having role models that we can mirror, who can help young girls to understand how to really step in the room with their elected officials and learn how to advocate for themselves and what that means, localizing the issues. And they're never too young to start.
I'd agree with you. Let's talk with a young woman. Madison, what's going on? How do you suggest that young women become more civically engaged this year?
I think this year, one of the first steps to becoming civically engaged is in education, and first educating yourself on what the issues are and what needs to be addressed in order to progress as a community or whatever community you are trying to serve. So whenever I'm reaching out to anyone, I always try to offer resources so that they can obviously read it and know what they're really trying to do. And then from there, take action on the knowledge that you now have on these issues and see what you can do within your community. I understand that we are in a pandemic and we have been for the past year. So volunteering has been more difficult, but there are still digital opportunities. Like this panel is a perfect example of that, where you can still be present, be active, use your voice, and most importantly, use your mind to help finally solve some of these issues that we've been trying to solve for generations. So that's my step-by-step of how to be civically engaged, starting with educating yourself and then taking action in any way you can, just to make sure that you're sharpening those tools in your toolbox to be able to communicate with others the best you can about these important issues.
Listen, I know NSAE agrees with this. I just am so excited to hear about it, but we have been working to engage more young people. Your organization really understands that intersection. So what does it mean for young people to be civically engaged at New Georgia Project?
Yeah, I think one, we have a very broad definition of civic engagement, right? Oftentimes people think that it just means to vote. But we think that showing up to city council meetings and saying something, we think that marching and protesting is also a part of civic engagement. There's so much that we can do to impact our communities. And so what that means to us at the New Georgia Project means that age is not a determining factor for when you can make a difference. That there might be a minimum age by which you can vote, but there's not a minimum age by which you can make a difference. And so one, that is the energy that we keep in our organization. And that's, that's the lens through which we see leadership. And I think two, just talking to young people, I think it's really, really important to identify the things that you care about. What are the things that you can't stand to see keep happening? Or what are the things that like you really, really want to see for yourself, for your family, your friends, or your community?
Wow, how different would it be if someone was 18, 17, graduated high school, ran for school board, helped work on some sex ed policies? How different, would it be? I feel like as Black women, we have continued to say, we're not sure what it will be, but we know it's going to be better. We know it's going to be more impactful. We know it's going to be, with love and admiration and support. So, Shar, I know you are out here in these streets. You are beating these things down. What does it mean to be civically engaged for you? And how do you suggest that young women become more civically engaged?
So civically engaged for me, I lie in a big area of intersectionality between the hip hop and entertainment industry and local and community politics. For me, I think I probably take an unorthodox approach. Because my civic engagement could be in a lot of ways. It could be from us, sending disaster relief or planes over to Puerto Rico or semis down to hurricanes in the United States. Or it could be to, I try to make it fun. Like last year, we did a series of spades and card tournaments and called the ATL House Party, where you could come and play all these games with your friends and play cards. But we use that money to help people that were coming out of prison transition back to get new jobs, buy new clothes, different things like that. So I try to meet people where they are. I think it's important to be proactive. And not just active around election time, but actually getting to know what's, learning your community, but getting to know who's in the community, what the need is. One thing that I learned is that, sometimes it's things that's already set up, but we don't know what's going on to know what resources are out there that we're complaining about because we haven't done our research yet. Also I think that people, the most important thing to me will probably be people finding a true passion, something that they are directly either involved in, have been involved in, or know and love, or even a family member. The reentry programs are really big to me because 80% of the males in my family went to jail, at the end of the 80s and early 90s, and that really affected my family. But also I'm in I came from the music industry, so I was watching how, Rick Ross could say one line and they'll take his entire song off, but yet, you can say whatever you want to about Black people all day long, but if you say anything about, the Jewish or the LGBT community, or, about anything involving the Me Too movement, how differently it's handled. But we can talk about Black people being killed, shot up, and all this stuff all day long. But, and so I just started to pay attention to, how it's systemic racism in so many different ways that we, don't see how we're not only perpetuating it, but a part of it, and so finding what your passion is or what you're connected to, or what even something that you want to be involved in, and just seeing, okay, studying the top people in it, seeing what they're doing, seeing what you like, what is the gap? How can you help these people? I think too often we're coming with our hands out versus with our hands up. How can I assist you? Because I know everyone on this call, we have different things that we're doing and we're amazing at. But if we had just one more person or one person to do this one little thing right here, it'd be like, oh my goodness, I would just turn up, And so if you're especially young women, because we're just so assertive and we're so aggressive when we really want something. So I think study the top people and see what you like, what you don't like. What can you provide? What can you assist with that will literally benefit multiple people and not be seen as, and not that you should be in this mindset, but it's just a real thing, where you're not in competition, but more solely in from an assistance type of, role.
Ooh, I love it. Insay, I know you love it. Let's talk about our people. Let's talk about Angela Davis, Fannie Lou Hamer, Audley Moore, Ida B. Wells, Mary Church Terrell. It's so many of us. But Insay, you are among of those who helped Georgians turn out in record numbers. What will this impact be now that we have voted in record numbers? What will this impact be on the generation of activists and organizers who come after this time?
Yeah, I think that the impact will be one, that people know that Georgia is more than Atlanta and not Atlanta, right? That Georgia was one, that the key, the path to winning statewide is you have to have a truly statewide plan to win. That, again, all the Black people don't live in Atlanta and all the others live in other places. I think it really introduced people to the Black Belt and what that is. I think it really introduced people to Albany and Savannah and Macon and Augusta. And again, that we are a proper battleground state, that you're going to have to come and ask Black people for their votes, that you're going to have to come and ask women for their votes, that we're a proper battleground state, that no one owns us, that there are no safe seats. And I think that that's an important lesson to learn. I also think that organization is also going to be a story or a theme that emerges out of the 2020 election cycle. So churches, right? Civic organizations, fraternities, sororities, large and small, that in a healthy democracy, that folks are finding people that they are aligned with, who are values aligned with them, and that I tell people that I subscribe to the gospel choir theory of organizing, the idea that you find people, you find your organizing home, you find your political home, and you link up with those people and you do good work there. And that when you have personal or professional obligations that compete, so you can't show up to the meetings all the time, you know that the meeting is still happening, that the work is still happening. So I think that those are the two stories, that Black voters in Georgia are super sophisticated, and that we're everywhere in the state, and that there's no way to win without asking us for our votes, one. And two, that there are tons of dope leaders, but also organizations that are doing this work day in and day out, and you should get with one.
Y'all heard it here. Insay Ufot, the Chief Executive Director of the New Georgia Project, has made it very clear that we can leverage tools and technology with the goal of making it easier for every voter to engage and to actually move over 500,000 eligible Georgians to vote. But I want to actually hear from Ms. Fanica Miller, because when we talk about this idea of insert word matters, for example, Black Lives Matter, when we start to get in those conversations, for some reason, others feel like it's an opportunity for them to say, well, what about these other lives? What about all these other things? What's going on? But in fact, you have been equipping people with the tools and educational opportunities that they need to prosper. I want to hear a little bit more, Fanica, about in this moment right now, we're in COVID-19. Let us not play, we are in a pandemic. Black women have continued to spearhead our social justice movements because we know that we will win. But we also are facing issues related to our intersectionality. Can you talk a little bit about intersectionality and how, as the director for the Southern Black Girls and Women's Consortium, that you are addressing these intersectionalities?
So yes, one of my favorite quotes is a Toni Morrison quote, and she said, I'm writing for Black people, and I don't apologize, right? And so one, that is, as a program manager, part of the team for Southern Black Girls and Women's Consortium, being unapologetic about centering the voices of Black girls and centering the voices of Black women in the South, valuing local infrastructure. So not coming in to shape the narrative on behalf of people, but really coming in to listen and to hear what their needs are. Because again, Black people, we're not a monolith, right? And so everything is intersectional, but how we center Black people in the conversation is where we can really build power. So we are unapologetic about that work. We're unapologetic about it, and we build partnerships along with the community organizations that already exist. One, even with Black Voters Matter, right, as Nsé said, valuing the voices of local infrastructure, not coming in to be extractive, but really coming in to listen, to invest in their leadership, to help and to shore up and build capacity so that they can really learn how to advocate for themselves, and being unapologetic about the issues. No, we didn't say, of color. We said Black, right? And sometimes I think it's important, sometimes I think we're hesitant to really stand in that and to really understand what that means. Black women activists on the front lines, right? Black men are being murdered in the streets, right? Our Black girls are being disproportionately expelled or disciplined at schools, right? We saw what just happened in Osceola, Florida. So yeah, I think it just means coming in, really centering, standing in it, and being unapologetic about that work. Don't allow anyone to shift the narrative for us.
I love it. It feels like a breath of fresh air. Can we all just it is an evening, so we all need to breathe. But you just put some life into me today after fighting at the state capitol all day. And we were fighting because there's this narrative that Black women's truth is aggressive, or it's wrong, or it's criminal, when in fact, one of my favorite groups, the Combahee River Collective, a 1970s Black feminist lesbian organization, once said, if Black women are free, it would mean that everyone else would have to be free, since our freedom would necessitate the destruction of all the systems of oppression. And as we critically analyze that and take it back to our communities, I want to ask each of you, you can popcorn it to one of your other co-panelists, but I want to start with Madison, and I want to ask you all, in 2021, what does Black liberation look like? And what would it take to achieve those goals?
So I think for me and my journey that I've been on, I have a lot of focus on education. And I really believe that if we can ensure an education for all Black youth and getting the top quality education at that, I think that's one of the first steps to Black liberation, because in order to overcome these systems that we've been placed in and that oppress us, we need to know how they work. We need to know how to break them down and find the weak spots and make those changes to the areas that need to be changed. And frankly, the whole system does. But I think, we have to start with education. That's always my first step. So I think if we can ensure that educational aspect for our young Black boys and girls, then we can really move forward, hopefully at an even faster speed of really making real change in our communities, in our states, and hopefully on a national level as well.
Now, who you gonna popcorn it to, Madison? I know you know about popcorn, honey.
Oh my gosh, I get all nervous. Okay. I'll go to Shar.
Shar, what does it mean right now, Black liberation in this time?
So many things. It's time for people to stop being scared. It's time for people to stop taking out that little box and code switching, no, because they don't do it for us. We need to be unapologetically Black, because it's sad that it's cool when they want to copy it, but it's not cool when they want you to come to their level, but they're not coming to our level unless they want to. I think that we need to stop trying to include everybody in every single thing, because just like how we got to get in where we fit in with their things, they need to get in where they fit in with ours. And if it doesn't go along with it, then it doesn't go, it doesn't work. We need to stop trying to switch stuff to make it, work for everybody. And we need to start talking about reparations. Like, we just watched all these trillions of dollars go around to everybody. We watch $50 billion go to the Jewish community every year for something that did not even happen on this soil. We watch money go to, what is Kim Kardashian's background, the Armenians. We just gave away billions to the Armenians. Everybody is getting their piece of the pie, but the people who built the thing for the pie to sit inside of. So I think that this year, and moving forward, period, we have to stop tiptoeing in politics and community and what our asks are. I think that we need to walk boldly in what we're doing. We just got a whole president elected, and now it's time for him to put up, because we got you in there. I don't know about, I'm sorry, y'all, I don't sugarcoat. I am tired of watching everybody else's issues scroll across the screen, but ours. And congratulations to the entire Asian community, but how did they get some stuff about discrimination just during COVID? And we've been being discriminated against for centuries, and we're still being discriminated against. I don't get it. I don't understand, and I'm not with it. And I just, I think that we need to restore some type of confidence to people and through politics, because it's not very we got to ask for more. We need to stop. We have to be more bold with our ask, and we have to be more bold with our takeaway when we don't get what we want.
Y'all heard it here. Tune into the Charbay Show. If you're not ready yet, honey, stay ready. MSNBC, Revolt, Rolling Out, VH1, Media Takeout, Gossip, OK Magazine. It's everywhere. Charbay is not playing with us, but we're here for the young folks, Char. So, like, who do you want to popcorn it to on this panel to talk about what they think Black liberation is?
I got to give it the insight. She had to take a whole seat back. I feel like she got some things to say.
I was going to say, listen, you said it all, sis. I think that honestly is foundational, is the freedom to thrive. Right? They're like moving beyond just surviving, right? So like I would talk about, I'm also a very practical person, right? So I want to talk about like $15 an hour as a minimum wage as a good place to start. But that's not really liberation. That's moving beyond survival, but it's not thriving, right? So when we think about what it means for liberation, I think it means that, Black people don't have to worry about the quality of the air that we breathe, the water that we drink, that there's a knowing, not a hope, there's a knowledge that there's enough for us all to eat well, to rest, to raise our children and see them have children, to grow old and die of natural causes, that when we get sick, you don't have to mortgage your house in order to make sure that you can see a doctor, that you have a doctor that actually is committed to making you well and not committed to making money or just hurrying you out of the door so they can check off a list. Yeah, I think that we do this work, that we organize, not only so that our people can live, but so that they can live well.
Ooh, I'm telling y'all, it's been a long day at the state capitol. So y'all are giving me a lot to just chew on and to remember. But I see not just the people on this panel, we're coming to you, Ms. Miller, but I see some attendees. I see you, YouTube. Hello, Facebook. Hello, the world. Hello, whoever else is watching. You know, they always watching. But if you have questions, drop it in the question piece, because my questions are cute, but yours might get more to the money. And I want to hear what you have to say. So to our attendees, go ahead and drop some questions in the chat while we hear from Ms. Miller, who understands this at a really systemic level. Ms. Miller is working every year to bring Black women and girls to the state capitol, and who is raising civic engagement and policy awareness on this issue. But what do you think that Black liberation looks like in this time?
I think my sisters said it. You know, they said it clearly. They, you know, laid out what our communities need, and so the knowing piece is just has always been there. It is, how do we get our girls to lean into the ask, right? To not be afraid to lean into the ask. That's why we bring Black girls to the Capitol every year, because the data has already shown us what the needs are. We've done, you know, listening sessions all across the South with Black girls, and they've told us what their needs are, right? What a Black Girls Dream Fund would look like. It means being safe and secure in schools, right? It means having an education system that not only gives me the historical concept, but also fosters innovation so that they can walk into entrepreneurship as well, right? How do the girls learn to advocate for themselves in their homes, because some of their homes may not be safe spaces, right? And in COVID, we've seen issues of domestic violence. We've seen suicide cases rise, right? So giving girls the autonomy, right? And helping them to be bold about what they ask around their security, around their wholesales, and then not being afraid to ask for those things from our decision makers, not being afraid to ask for the zeros. Give me a line item in the budget when it comes to a commission on Black women and girls, right? Senate Bill 16, which we just saw this legislative session. Give our girls the opportunity to learn how to write ordinances at city council meetings, to really shape policy at a school board level, right? Give our girls the freedom and the skills that they need to thrive in this economy, right? Just helping them to learn how to not be afraid of the ask, to really lean into their voice. And they already have the power. They've told us what they wanted. Last summer, during the summer of protest, young people took to the streets in record numbers across the globe. They already know what they want. It's up to us to listen and to deliver, and to help them to request or to demand what they want and what they need.
Wow. I'm just thinking about when I was a young girl, young Black girl growing up in South Georgia. I was, you know, my melanin hit different. Okay. I was outside playing on the fields. I was enjoying the sports, honey. So my melanin hit at a different shade. And we've got to talk about colorism. I cannot leave us from this thing. Look at us all. We all got different lighting, but we all got our own melanin to it. So what advice or what truth, I'll say, would you give to our young girls, women, you know, queer folks, young people who are trying to figure out this issue around colorism and how it impacts their lived experience? I will let someone jump in here and popcorn it off.
Can I say something about that? And I'm sorry before I popcorn, but one of the things that I learned from the girls in our mentoring program, because, you know, as an adult Black woman, sometimes we lean into respectability, right? And have to check ourselves at the door, right? And one of my favorite mentees, she would come in, you know, different with a different hairstyle every day. And one day she just stood and said, you know, we can be a whole new Black girl every day if we want to, right? That statement alone really impacted me, right? How they see themselves walking into the room. If I want to wear a wig today, let me wear my wig today. If I want it blonde today, let me blonde it out today, right? If I want to, you know, glam my face up today, let me glam myself up today, right? Give them the autonomy to show up as they want and to shift the narrative. We have to reclaim that in the public space, and especially as leaders and activists and organizers, helping them to craft the language around what that means to say, no, you're not going to tell me what I have to look like or show up as a Black girl. I can show up as a different Black girl every day, and I can own that and be great and be excellent and give you all kind of Black girl magic in my own way. I'm gonna popcorn it to Madison.
Hi. Okay. So, yes, the topic of colorism, I think, is something that has really had a stronghold in the Black community. And I feel like we're really finally starting to have real discussions about it. And, growing up, I didn't exactly know what colorism was and think until I started turning in my teen years. And I see comments in the chat. Someone said, if you're light, you're all right. If you're brown, stick around. If you're Black, get back. You start to hear a lot of these offhand comments pertaining to someone's skin, whether they prefer it or not. And I would just like to say that it's something that really does tear down young Black girls, because it usually affects young Black women, just Black women in general. And sometimes, it can be from men of our own race, oh, I don't dig dark skins, or comments along that line. And I think it's really important to find an environment, not only where you feel safe, but also beautiful. So I went to a predominantly white school, so colorism was definitely very prevalent at my school. But we were lucky enough to have some safe spaces where girls of all colors, could have a room and talk with ourselves and discuss how, those things might make us feel, or what we can do to build up our own confidence. But yeah, it's definitely something that's very difficult to deal with. And I think at the end of the day, you always have to look at yourself in the mirror and just keep telling yourself you're beautiful, because no matter what, no one else's opinion really matters. You're beautiful, you're important, and you matter. That's all that matters at the end of the day.
You better period. You better mic drop. You better tell them and go. You better get that and leave. I love it. I love it, y'all. Can't y'all tell the way my Blackness is set up? It's been too long at the state capitol today, and I got to go back tomorrow morning. I do not want to leave you, Shar. I don't want to leave you, Insay, but I do want to hear from you. So let's talk about colorism, but I want to ask you to hit a little extra piece with it. Talk about the word mobilize. How do we mobilize, either through past colorism, with our work? Talk about colorism and mobilizing. Let's start with Insay and bring it on down to Shar.
That's funny. I feel like colorism is antithetical to mobilization. So the way that I understand colorism, and let me be clear, I'm not an expert, but the way that I understand colorism through the context of being a Black immigrant who from a country in Africa is that proximity to whiteness is beneficial, right? So the closer you are to being white, the more, and it's not even the more that you get, it's the less oppression you are likely to experience, in the same ways that, people think that, but the way that people think proximity to power, provides protection. The problem is that it doesn't mean that you have power, that you are powerful yourself. It just means that you are close. And I think that given the way that white supremacy and people who buy into it as a philosophy have used it to cause great harm across the globe. There are people in my country who literally burn their skin with bleach in the year of our Lord 2020 so that they can be lighter because they're considered to be more attractive, right? That is how white supremacy and colonialism, which basically means that when there were European countries that controlled African and Asian countries, and the US in back in the day, that it's really harmful. That if you can get people to stop loving themselves, that if you can get people to think that there's something wrong with themselves, and that the only way that they can be okay, the only way that they can achieve success is if they change the way that God made them. That is the biggest lie. That's the biggest finesse. That's the biggest hustle the world has ever known. And when I think about mobilization, and that's moving people to action, I think that getting people to hate themselves, getting people to hate their siblings, their brothers and sisters, their family, and people who look like them is a counter to mobilization. That Black people won't rise up, light skin, brown skin, dark skin, that they won't, when they unify and rise up and mobilize together, they're in trouble. And so the way that they can keep us from unifying and linking up and mobbing up and squatting up and mobilizing and building. Sorry, doing the most. But the way that they can keep us apart is by making us think that, again, like creating divisions within our family, coming into our house and poisoning or attempting to poison the relationships that we have with our siblings. It's anti-mobilization, it's anti-liberation. It doesn't help us build Black power, and we don't have any use for it.
Sheesh. Yes, and yes to all of that. I'm sorry, I don't even know if you was done. Sorry, let me.
I am. Go for it. Go for it.
Yes, she spoke on a lot. I sometimes don't think that people know how deep it is, on both sides, because whereas the fact that just a few years ago, it was an actual breaking news type of thing for Wale and Tory Lanez to put a brown skinned girl in their video. The fact that that was actually a thing as a lead actress should let you know where we are. And my mom is part Black, part Native American, and part white. And so my mom is super light skinned. I'm the darkest of all my mom's kids. And even growing up, me and my sister, who had the same mama and daddy, y'all, we are smidget away from each other, literally used to say, well, you dark skinned and I'm light skinned. And, like what? But it exists so much within our community. And even, and then another part that I don't think that people think about is the things that some of the light-skinned girls go through, because they're seen as in a certain type of role as well. You know what I mean? And so it's both sides to the spectrum, that they use different ways to use our own skin tone and weaponize it against ourselves, and as Nsé said, as a way for us to be pit against each other. I remember somebody was saying, I said to somebody one time, and this was when I was younger, but it's still true. Although it took me to get older to think about how terrible that was. But I remember having a conversation with somebody, and I was like, if you look at all the rappers and all the rich men, they first girlfriend or they first wife be brown skin, and then when they make it, they have a light skinned girl or a white woman. But it's true. For the most part, and I don't think it exists as much as it used to. And I'm really, I have to say this, I'm really proud of the fact that we as Black people are raising our conscious level so much. And actually, like, I've never heard so many things about beautiful brown girl, because, we have been so Black and brown has been associated so negatively and has been so frowned down upon. And if you don't have a certain type of hair, then you're looked at as this. And hearing so many rappers and different people, I want a red bone, I want a bag, you know what I'm saying? This, that, and the third. And, it disenfranchises our confidence about how we feel about ourselves. And it about brown skinned girls, but it over sexualizes light skinned girls, you know, and so that's something that people don't talk about. And I think that it's important for us to continue to lift each other up, because we're starting to appreciate all tones and shades of Black people. And I think as far as mobilizing, we have to, y'all, I'm more spiritual than religious, but something as simple as one of the commandments, love your neighbor as yourself. That's a different part of mobilizing. We do not speak on loving each other enough. Whether you know them, whether it's your family, whether it's your friends, just, you know, even us, you know, this type of mobilizing could be just us walking past each other. Like, I'm from Flint, Michigan, and like, I got to be honest with y'all real friendly down here in the South. We not friendly like that up north. You know what I'm saying? Like, you can't stare at a woman or girl for too long, because they're like, what you looking at? You know what I'm saying? Like, you about to fight, you know? And so even just raising those vibrations, me being down south, I remember when I first got down here, and I'm like, why is everybody speaking to me? And it got to the point where like 4 people had spoke to me, and I was like, oh my God, like, you don't even know me. And this older guy, he was like, dang, girl, we just trying to show you some Southern charm and hospitality. We just trying to speak to you. Just, how you doing? How's your day going? And it was like, oh my gosh, you know. But it's us actually stepping out of our comfort zone and experiencing other people's cultures and backgrounds, because Black people from New York, Alabama, California, and Georgia and Florida are all totally different Black people, you know. So I think that we have to give each other an opportunity. We have to give each other an opportunity to be who we are and learn why we are the way we are and how we can build off of each other's strengths instead of focusing on the weaknesses.
I love it. I love it. I feel like it's time for us to go to the audience. It's time to, I'm always ready to take it to the streets. And Tyreek is here with us. Tyreek was asking me, he was like, how do we get more Black women in political seats when there is a mass majority of white men? That's a big one. How do we do that? But I also want to say it's so possible. I was elected at age 24. Madison created Buckhead for Black Lives the year after graduating high school. Fanika works all day with young girls and is getting this information in real time. Shar, you spoke about the colorism you realized as a kid. So it's not actually that far from us that we could figure out how to take all of those experiences and elect us, choose us, support us, stand with Black women. I want to see the hashtag, this is our table, go beyond today. But I want to ask each of you to do some sort of closing remarks. But the way I want to do it is, you know how like when someone's leaving someone's house and they're like, okay, I'm finna go. And then they go to the car and they talk in the car for a little bit. They standing out the car, they at the door. They're like, okay, well, what you need next week, I'll get it for you. And then they're like in the car and then they're like, okay, girl, I'm really gonna go now. So I want this to be a gentle leaving, and I want us to all walk away in love and in empowerment. But truly, I want us to just finish by discussing this question that Tyreek has, which is, how do we elect more of us? I'll give it to y'all to make some decisions on who speaks.
I'll start. I think that it's happening already, and particularly here in Georgia, that young Black women and just Black women, period, are running. They're working as campaign managers. They are running and winning. Listen, I know that for many of you, if any of you were around in 2018 when Stacey Abrams ran for governor, I don't know if people remember, but during the primary, so like early in 2018, people were like, Black person can't win a statewide election. It hasn't been done. Black woman can't become governor. America's never had a Black woman governor. Georgia's not gonna vote for her. She don't have no man. Where her babies at? Like all kinds of questions, right? Just that had nothing to do with the kind of leader she would be. And then she won the primary with 76% of the vote, meaning that 76% of all of the people that voted in the Democratic primary election voted for Stacey Abrams versus her opponent. And then we know what happened with the November election. And so I say all that, and now she's like America's sweetheart, like low key, to the point that the people who love her and support her are like, all right, already. All right. And so I say that to say that while the majority of our elected officials, at least in Georgia, are white men, that is not a permanent condition. That is not something that we have to live with forever. And in fact, I see it changing every single day.
I love it. And yeah, 2018 was amazing. I'll take it even back a step further to 2014, when we had 5 amazing Black women candidates who were running for our constitutional offices: Labor Commissioner, Lieutenant Governor, Secretary of State, and Black women on the ballot, down ballot races, local school board races. So my challenge to us as a community at large, and to, just voters, is that when Black women run for office, when they align with our values, when they show up with all the bells and whistles, when we know that they are the best candidate on the ballot, that we not only need to support them, we need to go beyond just asking people to run, to put their names on the ballot, and then not showing up to support them in all the ways that Black women candidates need to support. We need to give to their campaigns. We need to volunteer for their campaigns, right? We really need to show up to knock those doors for them, to send text messages, whatever ways that they need support. We need to show up for Black women in the same way that we have an expectation that they show up for us on the front lines every single day.
Shar, what's going on? Unmute yourself and just talk to us about this whole thing, getting more people elected. I was an activist elected official, over these past few years, and we've kind of gotten that word out there. But when I decided to run, and I was 23, I was broke, honey, but I was empowered. I was angry. And it wasn't that my anger was a negative emotion. My anger was a mobilizer, and it brought people to work with me. So let's give our young people, our Chisholm Leadership Academy, let's help them understand what it means if they do want to run, that they don't have to sell out, that they don't have to subscribe to all these respectability politics and wear a specific pump or a specific this or whatever that. How do we get more young folks, Black folks elected?
I think that we need to choose more people from the grassroots. Choose more people that are literally just fighting for the freedom and liberation versus career aspirations. Because I think that is one of the biggest problems, is that you have people coming into this with personal agendas that's not for the community. I think that seeing, making people feel more comfortable the way that they are, supporting these young people. I hear a lot of flack towards the young people, like they too this, they too that. I respect these young people. This new generation, like they are different, like they don't see, things are not so black and white for them. And they really, like you can't Like with our general millennials and back, you know if we got money or not. You don't know if these kids got money. You don't know, because that's how down to earth they are. And I think it goes back to meeting people where they are and supporting them in their own fashion. If they're good at, you know, bringing people out for concerts and different stuff, hey, I was out there setting up at Bonfire, y'all. I was doing voter registration at Bonfire. I'm meeting them where they at, you know, and making, you know, and supporting them from where they are, you know, and helping them with the resources and not looking at it as a strategic move, but just a kumbaya type of situation, bridging that gap. You know, if we see that we're lacking something in our in their campaign or something, don't look at it like, well, I ain't about to say nothing, because that, no, tell them, you know what I'm saying? Like I think it's too much generational competition versus, you know, I ran into an older woman in the in the industry, and I was so excited to meet her, and I was so excited for the way that she embraced me. And she said to me, she said, keep your openness. She said, and always remember to lift as you climb. You know, too many people are stepping on the heads of other people. I think that it's a lot of people that are in place that could put other people in position in a system, but they're so concerned about their spot being taken, or one of their people's spots being taken, that it gets in the way. So I think that just supporting and finding those leaders, you know what I'm saying, budding. You know, y'all, I was not into, I'm like Cannon, I came from being an activist, and I just kind of got through into politics when everything happened with Kemp. You know, like I used to tell people, I hate politics. I still don't like it. You know what I'm saying? But we need a variety of people. We need people that are bold and not afraid to say anything. And some of the people that are the most groomed for their careers are not groomed for the people. They're not groomed to speak for the people. We need people that are connected to the grassroots. That's one of the things that, you know, it's crazy, because while some people will shun me away because they feel like, oh no, she might be too raw, that's the same thing that gets me in the door, because of the fact that they know I'm gonna know if these people in this neighborhood doesn't have rent. I am connected to these people. Y'all, it's homeless people that literally know my car. You know what I'm saying? Like, and I don't, you know what I'm saying? Like, I treat everybody the same, you know, regardless of your name or following. And I think that finding those diamonds in the rough, because I would have never pictured that I would be doing the things that I'm doing, y'all, a few years ago. I promise you, I would not have ever imagined it. But finding those diamonds in the rough. Who are those Malcolm X? Who is the Reds that's about to turn into the Malcolm X? Who is the Martins that just ain't really had a chance on the mic, but they're very strong? We've got some people in, you know, other places. They may just be a cheerleader captain, but hey, if they able to get, you know what I'm saying, 100 people out from just sending a text, they're a leader. Find those diamonds in the rough and support them how we can to make sure that they are true to who they are, but still, you know what I'm saying, but having the knowledge. Because when you're bold and you have the passion, that's not something you can teach. It's not something that you can, you know what I'm saying, make them watch a video and game, but we can educate them on the system to be able to put that together to make an even larger impact.
For real though, who are the Stacey Abrams in our own communities? How do we bring our pain to the table? This is our table, y'all. The Chisholm Leadership Academy has really done it. I want to thank Ashlyn. You know, I want to thank Gianna for putting this together. I want to give a moment of the floor to our last panelist to just talk about what are the challenges that you've experienced, even just trying to start your organization and to lead it? And how do we move forward from this discussion today? Give it to me, Madison. What do you think? What do you think?
So I think for my personal experience with, being part of Buckhead for Black Lives, we are in a group that's organized in, like I said, a very predominantly white conservative area. So we did receive pushback when we were, trying to organize and plan protests. We had people put out fake flyers saying that we were white guilting people and just writing really insane, ludicrous stuff on it. And that was circulating around Facebook. And we actually had to get that reported. And then we had some counter protesters. Like, I think anywhere you go, obviously, not everyone's going to agree with you or like what you do, but I know for a fact that I'm on the right side of history. Therefore, I'm going to keep going even harder, especially when I see people that are literally standing for the same things that kept like my grandmother out of certain schools and kept her from sitting down in a certain diner. Obviously it's extremely frustrating, but I think when you know you're doing the right thing and you're serving for a larger purpose, it's nothing. It'll roll off my back because I know that I'm doing the right thing. And I'm here to progress the people, honestly. Like nothing else matters.
Oh, well, y'all, today is Wednesday. I hope that you can wind down. And tomorrow at the state capitol, there will be more voting suppression bills. There will be bills that take away our health care. There will be bills that attack our very ability to say, the police aren't perfect. And sometimes we need to reappropriate. All of those bills will be active in committee and on the floor tomorrow. So I want to invite you all to the state capitol. Now bring your mask, bring your hand sanitizer and physical distance, but come out between 10 a.m. and 12 p.m. and help us bring this conversation forward about House Bill 531. It's a 58-page voter suppression bill. As we would say in my household, from the rooter to the tutor, honey, they are suppressing this right to vote, where you can vote, when you can vote, how you can vote. So we must stand up and be effective. I want to thank you all in advance for sharing yourselves with us today. We know that we're all experiencing our own microaggressions, macroaggressions, and intersectionalities as Black women in Georgia in 2021. I want to thank our listeners. I want to thank our viewers and the people who gave us questions today. You fueled us with an opportunity to speak more authentically and unapologetically about our lives. I hope you have a great evening and that you'll stay in touch with all of our dynamic panelists. Insay Ufat from the New Georgia Project, Fanika Miller from the Southern Black Girls and Women Consortium and Black Voters Matter, Shar Bates from My Vote is Hip Hop, and last but not least, our young whippersnapper, Madison Crenshaw from Buckhead for Black Lives. Have a great evening and see you next time.